This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
If you have market investments as part of your financial plan, well, some of the financial headlines over the past month or so have undoubtedly caught your attention. If you're wondering if you and your family will be okay financially once all the dust settles, then you probably don't have a plan that you're confident in. I'm Alex Dingman, host of Financial Insanity, alongside, as always, Scott McLean, financial advisor with McLean Advisory Group, right here in Waretown. Scott, always a highlight of my week, friend. It's great to see you.
You're talking so much trash.
Yeah, you know it's true. I love you, buddy. And I want.
Well, I'm so glad our audience is listening. We've gotten so many phone calls throughout the Ocean County area, and I appreciate you as we together trying to get this vital information out as we're talking about today. I'm sure you got some great questions for me because the market's been up and down like the roller coaster, and I think people need to be well aware of or try to get aware of what's happening, and maybe have someone to lean on, whether it's myself or maybe someone else that they can trust. But this is not just leaning; this is really depending, Alex. So I think you got some great questions for me today. I'm sure you have.
Absolutely. We are here for folks in this time, and I want people to know the number, as always, if people do have questions, 609-488-4646. That is 609-488-4646. So, Scott, I want you to give us the big picture here. Is you have these news, financial shows, they're all about the big charts and graphs and scared people yelling at the TV. But what's your take on everything that's been going on here in the past month or so?
You know, I look at it like the weather forecast men that are out there. They're the meteorologists. They're waving their arms all around, pointing the ominous clouds on the horizon. And then you have the rest of us who are looking out the window, realizing it's just a passing shower. The big picture. The markets are pretty much like the weather. It's unpredictable at times. But if you got a good umbrella, or in this case, a solid financial plan, you'll stay dry. But again, you've got to be prepared. And for the worst case scenario, and you think about it, all else fails. Worst case, you got a funny story we did at our farm where we saw a tremendous storm coming. We brought in the horses. We were concerned about it. And I'm glad we did. Yet the neighbor down the street came to our house because we have a tremendous amount of stalls at our farm. We have about 25 different stalls. And they said, could we bring our horses over? The rain came so bad, our whole farm is flooded. So number one, what is the plan that you have? What's the backup? We're going to talk about it. I think you and I spoke about the risk level. We call that the beta level, the risk level of your portfolio. People aren't worried about it, but they need to understand what's your risk level. These are numbers. Most people don't like numbers. I love them. But number one, I would recommend people don't start screaming and yelling and panicking, but maybe call someone if you feel you're nervous out there and you feel like giving someone a shout out. Well, let me help you out. A really good number to call would be 609-488-4646. Why do I say that number? Well, that's me. And if you have a question, I'd like to help you with that. Because, again, you have to have the straight thinking and good decisions because you could sell in a very bad time, or maybe your plan isn't set up for income. And then, again, understanding the markets. They do have swings. We have an election coming up pretty soon, and that could really change the market. You can see the really market losing money as we've seen it come back. And again, we've seen the IA stocks or AI stocks. I mean, the NVIDIA and the Teslas. It took a plummet. It's coming back. What's going on? And this is where you kind of need someone to lean on, Alex. This is, again, like the weather. It can change in a moment.
Absolutely.
It could come out of the blue like the hurricanes in Kansas.
Yeah.
And, do you have that safety net? Do you have that bulletproof room to go into, or do you have someone to lean on? And I encourage, if you're out there, I don't blame you getting nervous. It is a very nerve-wracking time in our time of the elections, as well as the market, unemployment, interest rates, and inflation. This stuff is real, guys. It's real.
Yeah, absolutely. And the folks on TV, they're always the doom and gloom. I mean, that's what gets the ratings. That's what gets people to pay attention. But it's not like it's for nothing. I mean, the Dow did lose over 1,000 points in one day. NASDAQ crushed by over 6%. Now we've seen, a lot of recovery. But it wasn't just the U.S. European, Asian markets responded the same way. And so, Scott, when things do get rough in the markets, how do you talk to folks about the difference between a blip in the radar and a sign of something that could be bigger problems ahead?
You think about a blip in the radar, it's almost like you're at your house and you step on a Lego. When you step on the Lego in the middle of the night, you don't see, or maybe you hit your big toe, man, that could really hurt. If you're tripping over the same furniture, that could hurt. But the key to knowing when to get back on track and when really to call and really make some changes, or who do you lean on? Give us a call, because I'd hate to have you on the couch or maybe your head in the sand with your vitals exposed, crying about your stubbed toe or the Lego you stepped on. Meanwhile, there could be a bigger problem out there. I encourage people not to sit still anymore. And that's what I call it when you're trying to drive from Southampton to Waretown, my office. It's a long drive. It's a beautiful drive. But there are deer that come out of nowhere, and not paying attention and being aware could be challenging. So obviously, you need to understand, and we can't really predict the markets, Alex. We can't really, the signs we can look at, the numbers, the volatility index, they call it. It's called the fear gauge. What are we looking at versus what are you looking at? 40-something years in this industry, Alex, we're looking at a lot of different things, and we're trying to figure it out. And our crystal ball could be a little bit hazy, but we have to look at all the factors, Alex.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to kind of ask you, Scott, and not to get super nerdy on it, but what are some of the economic indicators that you watch?
I'm going to keep it simple for our listener, because I want them to understand they're probably watching it too, but we're watching different numbers.
Yeah.
So when we look at the inflation numbers, the unemployment numbers, are they real? The money, are we having a lot of money out there? Is it being printed? Are people spending more on credit cards? Even though I see so many people out to dinner, eating out, complaining about prices, but people are still going out, yet they're not using cash anymore. They're using credit card. How is that? So when you look at the consumer confidence, they call it the coffee index. And when you're looking at all these different indicators, seriously, it's like a mystery novel. But you got to put this together to tell a story. And so as a story slowly unfolds, if it gets too suspenseful, it gets too scary, that's when you give our studios a call. You give me a call off the radio, or maybe if you have a representative, an agent out there, I say a fiduciary, a guy or a gal who really cares and knows that they look at everything, Alex. We talk about the holistic, the dreams, the dollars, and the dynasty. Because I guarantee if it gets too suspenseful, what's going to happen? You're going to be like a cliffhanger. What do I do? And like a deer in headlights, you could be running into that deer when you could have avoided it.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. And for folks that are listening out there, what should the next steps be? I mean, how do you react? We are seeing some volatility. What's your advice for listeners as far as how to respond to this?
Well, you could take some medication and relax. I know there's a lot of these drug stands up there.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. They're popping up everywhere. Take a deep breath, relax. Look at everything. As we talked about the jobs report, the U.S. economy, Europe's getting stronger. It was very weak. We want to look at everything. And what we want our clients to do is, are they leaning on us? Are they being aware? Obviously, we do our radio show, as you know, Alex, twice a week. We're doing seminars. We're really ramping up our seminars. Why don't you come to our education workshop? If you're out there and you want to go to our education workshop, simply go to 609-488-4646, which is our phone number, but enter.com and go to our events. We're going to be adding a lot of events to really help people to relax the urge, the frightening, the fear. It's real. We understand that, but panicking could make it worse. So we need to stay with the fundamentals. We need to stay with the alternative type investments. We need to really, hold the line. And some people need to change the line. They need to change their thinking because the market could scream, but it also could scream the wrong way. In other words, scream going up or scream going down. It could be exciting or worse. Like, well, as you go to bed at night, can you sleep well at night? And that's the key of how you're looking at your portfolio. When you look at your portfolio, do you know the risk you have, the beta, the risk factor, which we're going to talk about later in our shows upcoming? I think you mentioned that, Alex. What kind of factors? So you know it may be time to change my philosophy and start for income rather than growth. As we look at growth versus income, I can tell you, as the wind changes, as the weather we started changes, could it be time to look at the fixed income world? Because we could be at a very good position now, Alex.
Well, and Scott, if people have questions out there, whether or not, maybe they don't even have a plan. How do we get started with that plan? Or maybe there's a plan in place, but they want a second opinion. What should folks do?
I think the first thing they should do is, number one, know that they probably need someone to lean on. I didn't say, and maybe shop around for investment advisors. And when you shop around for investment advisors, please, people love coming to us because we're not going to beg or bug you. We're not going to ask you for your money. But you need to meet with a few people and to find out who you can resonate with, who you can really say, that guy, that gal, they know me. That requires a first step. The first step is picking up the phone, 609-488-4646. Why? Because by dialing 609-488-4646, this could lead you to a path. Whether you decide to work with our firm or not, I'm going to give you some wonderful materials, some wonderful counsel. So when you leave our office, you'll scratch your head saying, wow, he didn't try to beg or bug me. He didn't try to sell me. But man, that office really gave me a lot of information to think about. And that's where it starts. It doesn't start on the couch. It starts by picking up that daggum phone and quits putting it off, called procrastination, because fear of change is the number one fear out there. And I can tell you the fear of change, well, the fear of not changing could be even worse.
I love that. Thank you, Scott. And what I also love is that we're going to be joined very soon by sub-advisor George Costanas to talk about testamentary trust.
Oh, great.
Very
important show.
Yeah, very important information coming up. And then at the end, probably our favorite segment, the mailbag segment, we're going to get to the listener questions. That is coming up. This is Financial Insanity.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
Get all this stuff and you try to put it away like these hoarders on TV. It has an emotional attachment.
So, Scott, you're saying I don't have to keep every single drawing that my son has done? You're saying I could throw some of that away?
The answer is yes. You can take a picture, then throw it out.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Financial Insanity. I'm Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group. And also today's special guest, George Costanas, Senior Advisor with McLean Advisory Group right here in Ocean County, New Jersey. Scott, always good to see you. And George, great to have you on again, my friend.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Heck yeah, and we have you on here because we're going to be talking about something a little specific and something that I know you guys feel like maybe isn't talked about enough, right?
It does. You're right. This is hardly ever brought up, which is why at our firm we do this all the time when we meet people for the first time to get to know them.
And we are going to be talking about testamentary trusts and how they can help align your assets with 3D planning. Dreams, your dollars, your dynasty, what we always talk about here on Financial Insanity. So we have a little scenario here to help explain this. And so imagine we have a couple here, Juan, 62 years old, and Liz. They are from the Oblivious family. Liz, 58. They're a couple with 3 grown children. They have Miguel, who's 27, and he has 2 children. Susan, 34, who has 3 children and a rocky marriage. And good old Tony, who's 35, from the estate valued at $1.2 million, which includes their home, retirement assets, and savings. And they have a clear vision for their legacy, and they want to ensure, like a lot of us, that their hard-earned assets benefit the grandchildren directly, even if their children pass away before them. So talk a little bit about this, Scott.
Alex, I'm glad if you're out there listening, this point is this, whether it's your estate like this or you have kids or no kids, understanding what's going on. But this family really want to ensure that their assets go to Miguel's and his and Susan, their children, their grandchildren. However, they also have some concerns. You see, they got a wild child, Tony, and he's got some bad habits, and they don't want him to get all the money at once. They prefer Tony to receive a monthly payment to protect him from himself and his bad habits. This is important. George, you had a thought about this as well.
Absolutely. It's super important to get everything lined up. In this scenario, if Miguel passes away, Susan will be the trustee for Miguel's children, and Miguel will be the trustee for Susan's children. Notwithstanding, though, you definitely want to make sure that even though perhaps the lawyer lines everything up and gets the trust and the testamentary trust correct, you want to make sure the beneficiaries of all the accounts are titled correctly. Super important to have someone just in your corner to make sure that everything lines up correctly. The setup provides control and ensures that your legacy stays within the family.
And I want to make sure that people jot this number down. If they have questions about testamentary trust or anything we talk about today, that phone number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. So really the big deal here and something that you guys work with a lot is just making sure that people's wishes are honored. And so with Mr. and Mrs. Oblivious here, what can we do? I know that testamentary trust can help. Discuss this a little bit about how this tool can help ensure that legacy is done like you want.
It's almost as if you're kind of directing the executrix to do your wishes and to avoid probate if possible, if it's nice and clean. And the problem is we've got Miguel with kids and Susan with kids. The question is their spouses. The family wanted to make sure the money goes to Susan or Miguel, the son and daughter. The child, and of course their other child who's a wild one. The question's going to be really is, in all fact, that Miguel's got 2 kids, Susan's got 3 kids, but she's got a rocky marriage. What happens if Susan dies and then mom and dad dies and the money goes down to the grandchildren? Well, then that means Susan's husband, or if they got divorced husband gets the assets. And if he or she gets remarried, and she meaning Miguel's wife, who gets the money? Now, could they divide it up correctly? Possibly. But let's not leave this a question mark. And if you're out there right now thinking, you know what, I think maybe my children could oversee. In this case, Miguel will be the trustee over Susan's children, and Susan will be the trustee over Miguel's children in the event they die, not their spouses. And I'm not making fun of anybody's spouses right now. If you're listening to me, I am not doing that. I'm making it very clear to keep the money within the bloodline. And how do we protect it? This is why people come to our firm, because we look at the assets, which are so critical. And by sending them to the wrong place, well, they can go to a lawyer. But if it's in writing like we want it to be and you want it to be, well, this is, again, we're baking the cake, making sure all the ingredients are exactly what you want. And if you're out there, please feel free to give our studios a call at 609-488-4646. 4646. You can ask for myself. You can ask for George. But let's have some time together to make sure your assets are buttoned up nice and tight. And this is what we don't see so many times. And this is like putting your head in the sand, letting your vitals get exposed to anybody who wants to get your money. And this is important, Alex.
Yeah. And you are listening to Financial Insanity. Scott McLean and George Casanas with McLean Advisory Group joining us today. And really, this is all part of that holistic view of financial planning, Scott, that comprehensive approach, which I know that you and your office pride yourself on. But how does this fit into it? When we're talking about testamentary trust, how's that fit into the comprehensive plan?
And, it's I want to hit on a point Scott hit on earlier. It's not just about managing the money after you're gone. A testamentary trust can offer all kinds of protection from against creditors, lawsuits, and even, I know we all have one in the family, irresponsible spending by beneficiaries. It's a way to safeguard the legacy for future generations. For example, like we're talking about Mr. and Mrs. Oblivious can set up a trust that ensures their grandchildren directly benefit from their assets as well.
Well, and that's just such a big deal. And it's really not about not trusting family members. It really is about just making sure that that legacy follows through and that your wishes are what is carried out. And so talk to me about this too, about how this helps ensure that, and, who's in control of this at this point once it's, handed over. How does that work?
Well, for those listening right now, it's not difficult and very easy to do. Once your advisor, your financial advisor, drills you down and find out exactly how you want your money. I call it the dynasty, how that is going to be passed on. This is important to get all the details. But the testamentary trust is almost like your wishes, but someone's going to carry out your wishes and then they set it up. It's not really that expensive, if at all. We really talk about our clients. So number one, know what you know what you want to do if something were to pass it. If you were to pass away, correct that. Know what you want to know if you pass away. And it's kind of hard. And it may change from year to year. So must be set up like Juan and Liz Oblivious. They were totally oblivious as to how their estate was going to be divided up between the kids, the 3 kids. And in this case, we got a special needs son, not special needs, but a son that's doing things they ought not do. I don't know about your kids out there, drinking, smoking, doing things. Maybe they're not working, they're slackers. And you want to set up a trust. Well, that could be set up in the testamentary trust inside the will. That could be setting it up. And what happens? Okay, maybe that child gets a monthly check. Or maybe you have a son or daughter that their health is not doing very well. And if you gave them all the money, they might blow it. Well, let's go set up a game plan, which is what we talk to you about in our meetings, how that money should be divided out, or what clauses should we put within the will and the testamentary trust. So when someone gets the money, it's passed down just like you want it. George, you might have some other thoughts.
Yeah, another really important part here, Scott, and listeners, is definitely you want to get a trusted family member appointed as a trustee to manage those assets. Someone that will absolutely follow up on your wishes. And even after the family member, or maybe perhaps you have a family member that you trust that's aging, there's even trust companies out there that will continue on to manage those assets long after you're gone and can continue your legacy the way you wanted it to go.
If you've got questions, I want you really to enjoy this next phone number, 609-488-4646. Why to enjoy it? Because it's a place for you to go to that maybe your advisor didn't speak to the lawyer, or even we're talking about taxation in a little bit, they didn't pay attention to the details. And that's where the rub can cause the crows and the clowns to show up at the funeral, not knowing what to do. This is important, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned something earlier, Scott, special needs and other unique circumstances, but I know that there's a way that the testamentary trust can address that as well, right?
It can. And so whether you're George brought up a spendthrift trust, maybe they want to blow all the money at once, you want to protect it, maybe they're doing medication, drugs, alcohol, whatever. They have a bad habit. They need help. Set that up in the testamentary trust. Special needs. This is another whole special program that you out there, if you have a child that is special needs and you really want the best for that child, obviously you do. Well, let's set it up correctly so your money doesn't get taken by the vultures. The nursing home, maybe mom and dad. Maybe.
We also want to make sure we're using to our benefit all the government aid available. So if one of special needs child is receiving government aid, this is a great way to coincide those assets and those benefits.
It's a critical way. It is very important you don't procrastinate.
Well, it's a very important conversation. I'm glad we're having it today, and it really just helps highlight just the comprehensive approach that Scott and his team take at McLean Advisory Group. So that number again, if you have any questions, 609-488-4646. That is 609-488-4646, adda.com for the website. We come back, we're going to continue our discussion on testamentary trust, and we're going to get some listener questions as well. That's on the other side.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Retirement planning, investment planning is a two-way street. It's got to meet. I need to understand the good, bad, and ugly you've been through so we can avoid those issues. This, to me, is very important.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
This is Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. I'm Alex Dingman alongside Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. And also, George Costanis is on with us today, sub-advisor, both with tons of experience. And we're talking about a very important topic today, testamentary trust. And if you have questions, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And we're going to get to some listener questions on this topic, as we've had some from throughout the years, and so compiling here. And so our first call is from Julia in New Jersey. The question is here, hey, Scott, George, my parents thinking about setting up a testamentary trust. How does it impact taxes for the beneficiaries?
First of all, Julia, thank you for calling in. And most important, you're paying attention to your parents' affairs. A lot of kids won't get involved, and it's so important you do. So great job on that. You know, when I think about the income generated by the trust, it can be taxed at a trust level or distributed to the beneficiaries, taxed at the individual rates. So this is important to understand taxes and why when we meet with people one-on-one, or we have the children come in with the parents as we're doing the estate planning, this is very important, because when you help manage the overall tax burden, this is really important to look at the tax return in addition to the legal documents. Or if your advisor doesn't do it, then have the advisor make the phone call to the lawyer and go over it with you guys so you're all together on the same page, because that's where the problems come in. And additionally, when you think about the assets in the trust, it can be passed with the step up in basis if the lawyer designs it correctly. And I can tell you, some lawyers are unaware of how to make this happen. So this is important. I've read, and George has read, several different legal documents, and they are prepared incorrectly. Now, we're not lawyers, but we do deal with lawyers all the time. We understand this very well. It is a fair disclaimer. So again, the assets, can be sold and then distributed. This is important.
All right, our second listener question today. This is from Dave in Texas. Very cool. Thanks for calling in from Texas. All right, so Dave here, this question. Hey, everyone, wondering, can a testamentary trust help with Medicaid planning for long-term care? I haven't heard you necessarily talk about that yet, but what do you guys think?
Wow, Dave, that is a great question. Thanks so much for calling in and bringing that up. Absolutely. Testamentary trusts can be a valuable tool for Medicaid planning. Now, the important part here is you gotta, if you're doing any kind of planning that is this complicated, the laws change all the time. It's so crucial to make sure you get valuable information, current information. But they can definitely help by placing the assets in a testamentary trust. You can help ensure that those assets are not counted as part of your estate for Medicaid eligible purposes. Super important. You got to know what's countable. You got to know what's not countable. You know the rules of the game, and you can help preserve and play that game better, in a manner of speaking. This will help preserve those assets for your beneficiaries while still qualifying for those Medicaid benefits. However, it's important to work with that professional, like I said before, to navigate these complex rules surrounding the Medicaid trusts.
So Alex, the real reason we do these shows is it's about finances.
Yeah.
You see, when you have all this money coming down to your children or grandchildren, and then maybe something happens to your son or daughter, one of them passes away, and of course they have children, like we said about Mr. and Mrs. Oblivious. The problem comes down to, how does the money get spent? How does it be organized in a fashion where the crows and the clowns, government, maybe divorcees, maybe they're going to try to get their hands on all your goodies. And this is what we see. And by the way, just because you have a testamentary trust doesn't mean you can't update it on a yearly basis. Whereas we're in our firm, when we meet with people on the annual review or a quick phone call, or maybe there's an opportunity out there we can help people, what we find often is, maybe as we ask the questions about the legalities and the beneficiaries, maybe they need to change it. So you can make changes down the line, but if you've got kids or family that are squabbling, or maybe the money is going to the wrong place, or you're not sure, keep in mind this is a great provision to put in, and you can obviously, on top of having the great provision put in, you can change it later online. So it's not set it and forget it. This is something your advisor should be reviewing on a quick annual basis, not in depth, and ask, by the way, how the kids, what's going on? Anybody pass away? Your son and daughter, are they going through a divorce? What's going on? Or do you have any kids that had a special needs? Maybe they played football and they got in an accident, and maybe they're in a wheelchair, like a case I did in Toms River, New Jersey, where the gentleman got in a football accident. Now we have to have a special needs trust, hide the money. So as George clearly stated, he doesn't lose the benefits from the government, Alex. So this is not a set and forget. This is a discussion on an ongoing basis with your financial advisor.
If you have questions about what we are talking about today, that number for Scott McLean, George Castanis, the team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. All right, another question here, the final one. This one is coming from Linda in California. Okay, Linda says, I have a special needs child. How can a testamentary trust provide my child without affecting their government benefits? And I know you kind of talked about this a little bit, but if you would kind of just emphasize that point for me, Scott.
You know, Linda, this is really important to understand for those listening as well. I'm so glad these questions come in. When you look at testamentary trust, it can be tailored really to provide a special needs child without jeopardizing the eligibility of government benefits. George brought that up earlier. So if you're just joining us and you have a special needs child, it could be a great, great tool to preserve the assets from the government nursing home, somebody taking it. Now, this is often done through the special needs trust, which is a type of testamentary trust that allows the management of assets for the benefits of the special needs individual. Again, you set it. It's not set or forget it, but you're going to put it in place. And once it's there, we need to have a trustee and a backup trustee. And so this is important. George, what else have you noticed when we dealt with people like this?
That's absolutely right, Scott. We want to ensure that you're maximizing every dollar, and that's between the government benefits. And at the end of the day, money is a tool to live the life you want, the quality of life you want. And by using these benefits, the government benefits, and these tools such as a testamentary trust, you can ensure a higher quality of life for your child and cover expenses that aren't covered by government benefits alone.
And if you could, where does this testamentary trust fit in as part of that comprehensive retirement strategy? As we're hearing this, how does this all fit into the overall plan?
It fits in on the first meeting when we meet people. It fits on the first meeting when you're looking for an advisor. It fits in when they ask questions about your dollars. And then when they talk about your money, it's not just about the dollars, but first it's about your dreams, how you see it happening, how you want things to be laid out. That starts with the first meeting on the discovery period, the dreams. And then, of course, the dollars, where they're going to go. And then the legacy, how should it be passed on. This 3D approach is so critical. It's a holistic approach. And then when you start to frame out this, when we start to do it with our clients, we then call their lawyer. Or if they want to use the lawyers that we work with, they can use that as well. It's not just about McLean, but McLean is pretty much, our goal is really to design the car you want to drive, and the lawyer's job is to build it. And as we talk about it, because we've done this for 40 plus years, I can tell you that for sure, that we want to make sure your money is going in the right place, because I can tell you, the crows and the clowns, they will show up at the funeral, but maybe they can't knock on the door because you have an ironclad program. I promise you, this is important if you don't pay attention.
Well, and when is it important to start the process? I mean, if I'm looking at this, what age, or is it about where I'm at in my life? What's the answer as far as getting this going?
It's so simple. I'm an old dog. I'm 65. You got George here, what's it, 36, 37. And I can tell you, what age, George, you think somebody should start this?
You hit the nail on the head. There are so many factors there that could produce a need to start planning. But honestly, at the end of the day, we see more and more people that fail because they just go through life buying financial products or investments. And here we really do like to start it with the planning first, the ideas first. What do you want your money to do for you? So really, it's either life situations, it's what you're planning on doing in the future. The sooner you start, the better. That's for sure. Don't put this aside. It's so easy to not do this since there is no timeline or final due date. But I'll tell you, life catches up quick with you. And the slower you are with this, the more you're going to have to do at the end. So always you want to start with that plan and then work towards that plan.
Listen to me. If your kids, I challenge you, dads and moms, to speak to your kids, and they're over 18, do they have a power of attorney? Have they taken care of their estate? Maybe you have a mom, maybe you have children that have children, maybe you have grandkids. Have you gotten with your son or your daughter, looked them in the eye as my dad would do me, as I remember so many times, with that strong eyes looking at me? Did you set up your will? Did you take care of the kids? What happens if you pass away? And it's not that emotional, but it can be emotional. And it's not that really pushy, because I can tell you, if you care about your kids, you want to find out from your kids, is it done? Because I can tell you, as we took in a daughter at 8 years old, her mom and dad didn't have a will. The father didn't want to raise her, and we raised her because that was the right thing to do. But what a nightmare it could have been had I not had the right contacts and the right people in my life. You have the right people in your life. It's right here at McLean Advisory Group. We've been doing these education shows for so long, and if you've been putting it off, please give our studios a call. Let us help answer your question. Ask for George. He's way overqualified. He's a CFP. He's got his license. He's been doing it over 15 years. I can tell you one thing. Either one of us will help you make the decisions or help guide you to making the right decisions for your family. And don't forget about standing up to your kids, because they need to be reminded to get their legal matters in order, not just a will.
Now, Scott, that brings up another question we get all the time. A lot of people are listening to the testamentary trust, lawyers. Do you have to be super wealthy to need one of these? What is there a net asset? Is there a number when I need to start thinking about this? Or I could just feel that a lot of listeners are saying, you know what, I'm not that wealthy to need this.
You know, whether you're not wealthy or not, you need to have a written document, or the government's going to give you a written document. The document that in this state of New Jersey, they have their own written document. So by not giving your desires out there, you've let the desires of the state take over. Now, who's better to handle it, you or the state? So this is why it's so important. I have a younger daughter right now. She's 19. Her affairs are in order. I've got an older daughter. She's 47. You want to make sure their affairs are in order. Now, whether they do it or don't do it, that's not on you. It's on you to bring it up. Lead the horse to water, salt the oats, and hopefully they'll drink.
Scott McLean, George Costanis of McLean Advisory Group here to help. That number, 609-488-4646. If you have questions, again, that phone number, 609-488-4646. More financial insanity coming up.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Scott gets questions each and every week from you fine people about all things retirement. So we're going to open up our Financial Insanity mailbag and go over some of these common retirement questions. And remember, if you have a question, the number is always 609-488-4646. That is 609-488-4646. And Scott, our first question comes from Jim in Lanoka Harbor, New Jersey.
All right, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Right down the street here. It says, I've been retired for about 2 years. I'm honestly ready for something different. I'm thinking about part-time work to help give my retirement counts a break, but would that cause any issues with my Social Security? Very wise for Jim to be thinking about this. What do you think?
Man, that's a great question, Jim. Thanks. Probably give your wife a break by going back to work, too, if you're married.
Yeah.
But anything, I think what's exciting is, congratulations, retirement handle us so much. Maybe go golfing and enjoy life. You go back to work. You want to think about a couple things. Number one, the full retirement age. You're in the clear, as much earned as much as you want if it's full retirement age. Again, the full retirement age. Mine is 66 and 10 months. And full retirement age, make as much as you want. But there's another challenge if you are not in full retirement age, which I don't know you are or not. For those of you who want to go back to work, there's a couple rules out there, which is why you want to give our studios a call if you're about to retire, 609-488-4646. These could be problems. Again, the earnings limit is $21,240. And if you earn more than that amount, of course, Social Security will deduct $1 from your benefits for every $2 you earn. So let me break it down for you. Imagine you got a bucket of water, and the bucket represents Social Security benefits. Now, imagine every dollar you earn over the earnings limit is like a hole in that bucket. So for every $2 you pour in the bucket, your earnings, $1 leaks out. So Security deducts from your benefits. So again, keep that in mind. And I'm so glad you asked that, Jimmy. I can tell you, enjoy your retirement, give your wife a break, or your sweetie pie or whoever. But you understand, enjoy life, make some money, take care of inflation, but understand by making a decision for you do-it-yourselfers could cause you a problem, and you're not going to know that until you do your tax returns.
Another question here, mailbag segment of Financial Insanity. This one comes from Stephanie, Barnegat, New Jersey. And here's the question. The idea of a big market drop makes me really uncomfortable now that I'm within a few years of retirement. How might I start repositioning my assets? This is timely.
Stephanie, great question. If you're married, there's a bigger question, or a significant other or a partner. We have to look at all of the income. Yes, you're thinking about the market drop, but you're looking at one thing. We need to look at more than just one area. We need to look at where the income source is coming in. We need to know what your risk, you're comfortable with risk. You see, that's called the beta rate. How much risk do you have? They call that the beta. So when you look at your portfolio, you could have a tremendous amount of risk. And so we need to look at that, or your advisor should be explaining that to you. Because I can tell you, anyone a little queasy, especially when retirement is around the corner, everybody's like that. That is normal. But you need to understand the market's like a roller coaster. You love the thrills when you're younger, but when you get older, you might throw up quicker. So I want you to understand, don't eat a lot of cotton candy and cake before you jump on that roller coaster. In other words, help yourself by asking questions. Come into our office if you feel like you want to visit with us. But again, you start moving the roller coaster, staying in front of the roller coaster, maybe the middle or the back where it's a smoother ride. And this is called readjustment or reallocation, fancy word, but readjusting your portfolio to meet your risk tolerance. Everybody wants to make 10, 15, 20%. No one likes losing 20%. So the question is, well, how much risk do you want? And this is going to be the question I'm going to talk with you about when you give us a call at 609-488-4646. So thanks for calling in, Stephanie.
Yeah, that was great. All right, another question here about halfway through. This one is from Tom in West Creek, New Jersey. All right, Tom says, can you have too much life insurance? I feel like my mom could be overdoing it with the number of little policies she has. What do you think, Scott?
Tommy, I appreciate that. If I'm beneficiary, please keep all the life insurance you can.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, you know what? I'd like to look at that because one area is beautiful life insurance. If you can afford it, could be tax-free. But what I've also noticed is you could have a lot of life insurance, a bunch of different policies, but maybe it doesn't add up too much. Maybe the cash value is the same as the face value. The question is it worth changing? Then we have what's called, can you exchange it for another vehicle, or can you make it better depending on your health? I do like life insurance. I think it's a great tool for those people who have a tremendous amount of wealth. It could be a great tool if the laws change, called the pour over rules. Great question. I appreciate that, Tommy, but the whole idea is, how much do you need? I call it the dime. Debts, how much income do you have to replace? I. M, do you have any mortgage to pay off? And E, earnings. Do I need to, or education, I should say, for the grandkids? That's a great question. It's a hard question to answer on the phone, but I have seen this so often. Give us a call at our studios. We can talk about it off the air, but that's a great question. People do have life insurance. I do myself have life insurance. It's a great tool for many people. For others, they may not need it.
Yes, thank you for that, Tom. And for everybody out there, if you have questions, the number 609-488-4646. Our final question comes from William in Southampton. All right.
Oh, great.
William,
like my backyard.
Yeah, exactly. William says, I'm really struggling to get organized with my finances. We have money saved, but I just keep letting all this paperwork pile up. Could you help me sort through everything I have, or I need to put it together first before I come to talk to you?
William, you got a problem. It's called procrastination. So step one, and I hope you don't, but I'm glad you asked, which means you're getting out of the procrastination stage, which most people are in. William, what I really encourage you to do is maybe put your stuff together, your paperwork together, and give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. I promise you I'm not going to try to sell you. I'm not going to try to twist your arm, but you need to really get this in place so when you put your head on your pillow, you won't dream about all these papers falling out of the sky and you dropping them.
Because dropping the ball is what I find in the legal work, the will, power of attorney, living will. Should you have a trust? Who does the money go to? These will keep you up at night. And if they don't, well, maybe your sleep isn't as good as it could be. Then, of course, by looking and organizing your finances, I'm so glad you brought that up, because many people listening right now think they're organized when they go into retirement, or maybe when they're in retirement, they think they're organized, but could be scattered all over the place. For example, you could have the spouse handling the finances, and you're out there not handling finances, and all of a sudden your spouse passes away. And now what happens? Well, now you're left up to chance. Why don't you take a chance and give our studios a call? Let's talk about it, because you don't want to procrastinate. This is the number one demon out there. And by putting the angel on your shoulder, look at the angel right, say, yes, I'm going to take action because I want to get peace of mind. So I encourage you. I'm glad you brought that up. You had enough guts to give us a call. But again, let's take action. 609-488-4646 for anyone out there who has these questions, because I can tell you they're real. I see them every single day. I talk to people. This is all I do. I love what I do. And people say, well, Scott, you're old. Yeah, you're right. I got 43 years in this business, and I plan on keeping going. I love this industry. I love what I do. And I love you for listening. Thanks for joining us today, guys. Alex, any more questions?
No, that's going to do it for the questions today. Tremendous. And Scott, I know that you really appreciate the folks that do send those questions in. Again, the number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And I just want to leave people here with a little thought, as you know, there's different ways to go about your retirement, and there's different ways to figure out, all right, income that I'm going to need when I retire. And I really like this one here. I read this, Scott, a 50-year-old side hustle bringing in up to $8,400 a month takes 6 hours a week. So a 50-year-old here, Elizabeth Morisani, has converted 11 acres of her land, split between 3 properties around Asheville, North Carolina, into private dog parks.
Beautiful.
So this person has just, hey, I got this land. What should I do with it? Convert it into private dog park. People are paying her now. And now this woman is making $8,400 a month, 6 hours a week of work only.
Wow.
And I just thought that was interesting. Just another way to create income for yourself. I know a lot of times it can be property as far as building, but here's property as far as land, and then converting it into something that could be used by others. So just thought that was really smart.
Creative mind is amazing. We all have it. It's just getting out of your way. And as I tell my kids, keep reading, learning things like you're saying. Yep. You know, one thing we didn't bring up, Alex, and I hope you're out there listening. I've seen and speak to so many people, not only about their finances, because that's what I do, but it's just for those listening for the first time. We look at your legal documents, your will, power of attorney, living will, health care. Maybe you need a trust. And with the laws change, you may need a pour-over provisions. These are critical tools that do handle your finances. So if your financial advisor is not looking at this, they're looking at a piece of your portfolio, not the whole portfolio. And the other piece is the taxation. How will the taxation be if laws change? Are they getting ready? Are they giving you heads up? And this is called proactive planning versus reactive planning. Are you getting that proactive planning? Are you getting that heads up or what if scenarios? This is why we've been doing these radio show with Alex so many years. As you know, I've been WBNJ, which is why I chose to go on the radio station, which is an education radio station.
Yep.
I want you to be aware of what you should do and take advantage of, whether you work with our firm or not. We've been doing these for a very long time. We've been doing this for a long time. I love this license in most every state in the United States. We've got clients all over, but that's not the point. It's giving you're listening to me right now, the tools and the thought process as well as psychological process, as well as, making sure everything is buttoned up nice and tight. So you have that shield or that plate of strength and the protection. So when you put your head on your pillow, you can go to sleep and say, you know what? At least my finances, my estate, my dreams, my dollars, and my dynasty is buttoned up. We appreciate McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown, New Jersey. For now, since 1983, been doing this business. So I trust you'll give us a call, and if I can help you, if I can't, I'll tell you. I promise you that.
Absolutely. No, and that number for a final time, 609-488-4646. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, this is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.